Hello, everyone. This is another live event organized by the World Fish Migration Foundation in collaboration with WWF. This event is part of our project Scaling Up Dam Removal in Southeastern Europe, funded by the Open Rivers program. And today we will have a conversation with our colleague Magda Jentgena, and she's a water program manager at the Pasaules Dabas Fonds, WWF Latvia. Sorry, she has been active in dam removal for the past 5 years and is on the way to reach the Latvian national target for free-flowing rivers in the next month, and has removed the first dam in her country, the Beja Dam, an old watermill. Fibos, you can show us the position of the watermill that were removed. Magda, I have a couple of questions to ask you. First, can you tell us a bit more about the organization you are working on, and why and how did you start working on barrier removal in Latvia?
Hi, Ruben. Yes, of course. So I feel like the introduction for you was a tongue twister. But Pasaules Dabas Fonds, we are an associate partner of WWF in Latvia. And we have been active here since 1991. So since the country's independence, we recently celebrated our 30-year anniversary. We have our Baltic Sea and freshwater program, and we were active on river protection in the early 2000s, which is when the small hydropower boom was happening in Latvia. So after we regained our independence, a lot of our smaller rivers were dammed by small hydropower. And our organization was working quite actively to protect the rivers that were still free-flowing and not allow further hydropower construction on them. And that was successful. So for a while, our freshwater work was not focusing on freeing up rivers because we had just established legislation which was protecting them. But of course, as the dam removal movement started in Europe, we also wanted to get started on that and actually took a fresh look at our rivers. We knew where a lot of the dams were. The hydropower stations we knew, and we knew some others, but then we had a lot of these what we call obsolete dams, which of course we came to learn during the removal that there isn't really such a thing as obsolete dams because it matters to someone somewhere usually. But yeah, so we started working on dam removal in 2021, which is when we started thinking about the first removal, which was the location behind me. That's how we got started in that.
That's perfect. That's really, really great. Can you show us around and explain where you are and what you see?
Yeah, so I'm quite literally sitting in the river, in the rapids. I'm sitting on a rock here. Behind me is the dam that was removed. It's now a free-flowing rapid stretch of the river. I will actually turn around my camera. So you can see the bridge going over it and the free-flowing river underneath it. So actually, I like that your background, Ruben, has the part of the dam that was still there this year because the dam was removed in 2 stages. It had a wooden sluice on it behind that was keeping up the water level for many decades. And yeah, you can see in the photo that the water level was much higher behind there. The wooden sluices were there really for no other reason than to keep the water level up. And you can see that it had these cement steps underneath, which was construction of the bridge. And both of those were barriers to both fish, aquatic organisms, and the river in general. So those have been removed. I mean, as you can see in the video right now, that the middle part of the bridge has been cut out, but the sides have been reinforced not to mess with the bridge structure. Behind it, there you can see the wetlands that have overgrown. That was where the water reservoir was before. It was about 5 hectares big, so not too huge, but not also small. And when we removed the dam, we did not get rid of the sediment. So right now, it's very fertile land, and it's overgrown with all kinds of vegetation. And then here used to be the old construction of the watermill itself, which is what we also use for the rocks here in the river. And we restored the rapids a little bit downstream as well. So these rock it's really beautiful rapids at the moment around here. That's about the location.
So basically, you've removed the old structure, but you didn't do any kind of restoration upstream. It was all natural, and now the wetland is recovering by itself.
Yeah, so in order to keep the costs down, but also because experience from abroad showed that it wasn't really necessary in this case to do restoration upstream. The river sorted itself out. And that's been really beautiful to watch because this was the first dam removal in the country. And we thought it would take 1 year. We started in 2021 and we finished it this summer. So it took more than 3 years to finish. There was a lot of challenges in between, but we have been able to see how the river is fixing itself. And that's really, really beautiful. And actually, we have an event tomorrow here it's open to the public. And we usually call them river restoration events. So we thought the river might need a little bit more help from us because we do actually have a big beaver population in the country, and sometimes they can have a negative impact locally on the river. So we help it out by bringing the river up, but the river has fixed itself. Currently, there aren't really a lot of issues to be fixed in the river where people can get involved. So it's not going to be a restoration event. It's going to be more of a educational hike. So because the river is doing such a good job itself, and also with the wetland above where the water reservoir used to be, when we lowered the water level, we thought it was going to be absolutely horrible for a long time because it did look pretty terrible. But the vegetation, so we lowered the water level in May of last year, so 2023. And I visited in the beginning of June, and vegetation had already started growing. And then in August of the same year, it was covered with vegetation. So the area that was completely muddy and, you had all this sediment from 40 years before, it had accumulated for 40 years. And it was overgrown by August completely.
Yeah, the recovery is really fast, and it was done by nature. Nature took care of the restoration upstream. That's really great. And why did you choose this barrier to be removed?
As the first barrier in the country, we wanted something that we thought would be a low-hanging fruit because there is another barrier in Latvia which is said to be the most ecologically impactful, in the sense that NGO activists have been trying to get it removed for over 20 years now, unsuccessfully. So we figured that we did not want to take a case that was so difficult because we wanted to get it done. We wanted something that could be an example in Latvia. Because when we just talked about dam removal and tried to change legislation and tried to inspire people to get on the dam removal movement, it was never enough with foreign examples. People always said, yes, it will work in Spain, it will work in the Netherlands, but it will not work in Latvia. even if our neighbors had done it, Lithuania and Estonia were ahead of us, they have done dam removal before us. It was not enough to convince the Latvians that, we need to remove dams. So we wanted a example that we could, show in Latvia that it works, and that it's a good way to restore rivers. We have a scientific partner in this project who we work closely with. And when I was discussing with him what location he thinks we should choose with dam, because we have plenty of choices, we have a lot of dams. He suggested this dam because the municipality is very welcoming, very forthcoming. The dam was ownerless itself, so we thought it would be easy because we wouldn't need the owner's permission, which we knew that is very often a challenge to get. And we thought it was obsolete, so it had no economic purpose. It was not in great shape. And above it, it's about 20 kilometers of river still upstream. And it's the only barrier in this river as well. So there was a lot of reasons why we thought this was a good object to choose. And size-wise, it was also not that big and not that complicated of a removal as well.
That's perfect. Really good. Another question is, did you perform any pre-demolition survey, fish survey or rescue, hydraulic or hydrological survey, any kind of surveys before you proceed with the removal?
Yes, so we did monitoring of the river before. We did, of course, we had to do hydrological models and everything to get the permits for the removal. And so to get the permits, we needed to do all of the monitoring of the river and parameters essentially. And one of our scientific partners actually did his bachelor thesis on this dam removal as well. So he, on top of all the monitoring that we needed to do for the permit, he actually ended up doing a lot more research than we originally planned, because this was also a very close project to his heart personally. So we have quite a bit of data of what the river was like before.
That's really good. And did you, I know that you didn't perform any kind of restoration activity upstream, but what kind of restoration downstream that you did to make the rapids a bit more natural, reduce the impact of the barrier that was there for 40 years? Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so downstream, I mean, first of all, we had to lower the water level very slowly. That was one of it's national regulation. You can't just, drop the water level and flood everything downstream. So I had to do it slowly, but the other reason why we wanted to do it slowly is because of the sedimentation. We knew that we were not removing it before the removal, because that would make the project significantly more expensive. And it's not polluted, the sediment. It was not polluted because there's no factories or anything upstream. It's just mainly forests and some agricultural land. So we didn't see the need to remove that, but by lowering the water level slowly, 20 centimeters in 24 hours. So it took us about 2 weeks to actually just get the water level down. We also decreased the sedimentation downstream, but still there was sedimentation while we were removing it. That's unfortunately, that was something we could not avoid. And then, to create the rapids. So actually, when we planned the project, the 2 steps that you have in the photo behind you, the part of the bridge structure, we had not planned to remove that because they were not that high. And we had some experts from Estonia come and also look at the site, and they suggested that we can simply put gravel and stones and rocks over those steps and sort of even it out if we had the gradient of no more than 2 degrees, like 2-degree slope. then it would be passable for all fish and aquatic organisms. So we did not actually think about removing that step in the first place. However, then we got sort of the permission from the road authority who owned the bridge, that we could cut out the middle part of the bridge, and it would still be safe for the bridge construction. Originally, we did not consider that because we assumed that we would have to reconstruct the whole bridge, which again, we're talking about completely different amount of financing needed to do that. But then the road authority gave us the permission to cut out the middle. We had a push also from Open Rivers program, who financed largely this project, that they would like to see the river to be truly free flowing, and we had a discussion whether evening out the steps would be considered free flowing or not. So once we got the permission to do that, and we could put it in our budget, then this year was the second phase of the removal. So if last year we removed the wooden sluices and lowered the water level, and then we let for essentially a year the river to sort of start restoring itself, then this year we finished the construction works, and we also, of course, we had to wait with the construction when the fish spawning season was over, because last year we could not have finished the works before autumn when the trouts are going upstream. So we had to wait until this year, and then we cut out the middle part of the bridge, and then of course we had to fill it with some stones and make these little rapids, so the river would be more natural here. And also, like I said, so next to the location here, I can bring my camera. So where you see the trees now, there used to be an old construction. It was an old, so the old watermill building, the house used to be there, but it was also in an unsafe condition. And the owner of this plot of land, who actually we signed a contract with to be able to use his lands to access the site. You can see it's still not recovered fully yet, but that's where the construction workers were entering the river from. So he asked us to take down that house because it was unsafe, and then we used those rocks and bricks from the house essentially for this construction here. So all of these rocks have been brought in to create the rapids and secure the bridge, and create these little rapids downstream as well. So that's in terms of the restoration that we did here.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept, using the rocks from an old infrastructure that was there, and then make the river more natural. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was a way to save costs, to actually make the project more financially feasible. And also, I mean, the construction of it, these rocks it has been constructed from rocks that were collected from the area. So essentially we were sort of just returning them to the river.
Yes. And what were the challenges that you faced? I'm pretty sure that you had unexpected issues in every removal. I've seen there is always unexpected issues that we have to sort out in place. What were the challenges, and what are the lessons learned with this project?
I mean, the biggest challenge I would say was local inhabitants. So I mentioned in the beginning that we chose this because the dam had no owner. And also this is not a densely populated area at all. There's actually no one that lives right next to the dam up here. And we thought it would make it easier, but it ended up causing a lot of issues because once there wasn't an owner, nobody from the construction authority was sure how we could get the permits to remove something that was ownerless, because every construction case needs to be brought up by an owner. So that was creating a lot of issues for us. And then the construction authority came up with a rule. They said, okay, well, if there's no owner, you need to get signed agreements from everyone who has a property around the water reservoir. Now that created the issue because one of the landowners was not happy to have the removal, even though people did not live around the water reservoir. There are houses there. So one house is used for the hunting collective. They have events there, but they don't live there. So they were the owner of this property was against the removal, and we had talked to him. And at one point he said, "Okay, you can do what you want. You can remove the dam. I don't care." But then he changed his mind. Um, and we had lots of stakeholder meetings. I have driven to this place so many times over the last 3 years just to talk with him. And um, I mean, eventually he came around to the idea of the project. He accepted it, but by that time we no longer needed his permission, because we did not agree that we need this permission of every single person living around the water reservoir. So while we were talking to the locals and we were, trying to convince them about the benefits of the project, we also were looking at other solutions to the problem. And the one that we ended up using was actually that the dam was in a state of emergency. So it was in such bad shape that it was causing a big flood risk. And it's once an object is in a state of emergency, something needs to be done about it. It doesn't matter if it has an owner or not. And once, we had the experts come look at the bridge, and they assessed that the dam was not in a good shape and the bridge was not in a great shape because of the flooding risk. Actually, it was impacting the bridge structure quite a lot every flooding season. So once we had this expertise, we could go to the construction authority, or actually the municipality, and say, well, you either need to invest money and fix it, or we're offering you the solution of removing it, which is also fixing the problem. So of course the municipality did not have extra funds to, fix this dam that wasn't really economically important for anyone. So they supported the idea that we can remove it, and then it still took quite a bit of time with the construction authority. And this is something where we saw a lot of legislation problems, because our legislation is made for construction, not for removal. So when it comes to removal, it's still a lot of questions of who gives the permits. And we started dividing the dam up almost by truth and bulk of who owned what. Because we came to the conclusion that the wooden part of the dam belongs to no one, but the cement part, that bridge underneath, the steps underneath the bridge, those belong to the road authority. And then the land belongs to someone else. So we started dividing it up into details, and that also really slowed it down. So we needed to get the permission for the removal of the wooden part, and then we needed the permission for the removal of the concrete part. And it was a really long process in that sense. And that's what, the struggle with the legislation and not being sure of whose permission we need for the removal, and then the struggles with the local landowners really prolonged the process and made it a challenge.
Yes, yes. I can imagine the challenge that you had. And my next question was on the perspective from the public, the issues that you face, but you already touched this point. So can you tell us a bit more about the celebration event tomorrow? What are you planning? Did you manage to convince this person that was against this removal to join the celebration tomorrow?
So I'll just tell you a little bit more about the landowners around here, because we did have stakeholder meetings, and in the beginning they were against it. Now they've accepted it, and even the one person who was most against it, unfortunately, he passed away last autumn. So I'm really, really sad that he did not get to see the final project, like when it's finished. But he saw a part of it, and like I said, the last time I met him in person, he was quite happy, I would say. But there have been still, even to this day, there's quite a lot of questions. And I got a call of someone attending the event tomorrow, a local politician actually, who said he was unsure of the benefits of this dam removal because he had seen the sedimentation downstream that happened after we lowered the water level. But he will be coming tomorrow so that he can talk to our scientific partners and we can show him the monitoring data, because we have done the monitoring again. And we have other local fishermen who have already caught trout going upstream. So, the dam removal has worked and fish are going upstream, and the river upstream is really beautiful. There's still a lot of sedimentation that needs to be cleared away. Like I said, 4 decades of, the water reservoir not being cleaned. So it's still a lot of mud, but in some stretches upstream, we already see these rapids forming and, a lot of the sediment has been washed away, but people have doubts and there is a lot of gossip. So we are working on another project not far from here, the same municipality, but maybe half an hour away. And I had a stakeholder meeting with people there. And these are mostly older people. So they're not really, commuting to here that much. But they came to me and they said, I heard about the Beja Dam and everything is bad. There's like trash there and, construction debris. And I looked at them, I was like, what construction debris? Yeah, somebody told me that it's like that. And I'm like, it's not there. You should really come and visit it. And, I'd love to show it to people in person, but sometimes like this misinformation gets spread and people are not fact checking things. And I think we know this with a lot of topics, but that also affects dam removal. So unfortunately, with locals, the work still continues and it's going to continue all the time. To really reach people, in my experience, you have to talk to them individually. You really have to go to people. You have to talk to them. You can't, it's not going to work if you're just releasing one press release or one interview or, you're doing the social media post. Unfortunately, that does not work with landowners. It might inform them of something, but it's not going to change their mind and it's not going to always convince them about things. So it takes a lot of time with the people. And tomorrow I'm really happy. We're actually having quite a lot of locals coming. Not exactly from here, but from nearby, from cities nearby. It's a lot of fishermen that have signed up for the events. They want to come see the river. They want to see what's been done. They want to help themselves as well. And we use these events as a really good communication tool to actually show that there is no construction waste here. That's just gossip, and the dam removal has worked and the river is doing really well, and hopefully it can inspire more communities to actually be for dam removal.
Yes, it is a long process. Convince communities on the benefits. It's really complicated. And my next question is about the benefits. Have you seen? You said about the trouts that they are migrating upstream, and the sediment will take a bit more time. Mussels and other benefits that you've seen that you can share with us.
I mean, a direct benefit I would say to the community is definitely the infrastructure of the bridge. It's much safer at the moment. The bridge was in really bad shape and the flooding was really affecting it badly. Actually, when there was the wooden sluices, every flood that old man who had the property here, who was against the dam removal, he would come here and sort of remove the debris that was piling up behind the sluice. We even have this sort of anecdote. He said that he was in the hospital. He's old and he had a lot of health issues. He was in the hospital, and he left the hospital to get rid of the debris that was in the dam because there was a risk that it would just flood and like break down. So he really was taking care of it. And I was thinking, now that he's gone, I'm sure that nobody would have come and gotten the debris out during the flooding season. So actually, if the dam had not been removed, I think there was a certain risk that it could have flooded this year. And considering the water reservoir was like 5 hectares, it would have been quite a significant flood downstream. So I would say that is a direct benefit to the community immediately. Then of course, I mean, I feel like I shouldn't even mention the fish migration and the free flowing river because those are the obvious benefits to the river. But then, I mean, we are also doing a lot of events here. We're bringing people here. There's a lot of media attention. We did a media event in June, so a lot of people have paid attention to this region, to the city, to this area because of this dam removal. And like I said, this is a low density area in general, and it's sort of a little bit forgotten by the government, this sort of eastern part of the country in general. So I feel like any attention we can bring to this is good. And on top of that, like this was the first dam removal, but since then we have removed another one last year. We are supposed to be removing two this month, two more dams. So the movement has really, I think, started, and our organization is about to reach the Latvian national target for free-flowing rivers for 2027. So I mean, it's one indicator that our ambition as a nation has been too low, but also that the movement is starting, and I think a lot can be attributed to this specific dam removal.
That is really great. You are doing an amazing work. And what are the next removals that you will do? You have two more, and you have anything planned for the next years?
So the two that we want to do still this month is two culverts on one river. They will open up the entire river, which is about 18 kilometers. So it's not huge, but it's one of our small and important salmonoid rivers. But then last year we mapped an entire river basin in Latvia to find problematic culverts. So we are looking at culvert removals because they can have the same impact as a dam. They can be fragmenting rivers just as badly, but they're often very quick and easy to remove. So we're not dealing with landowner or local inhabitants issues when we are removing culverts because usually nobody really cares too much about their removal. So we're working on that. Then we are partly working with the local community in the western part of Latvia. The local municipality has just gotten the funding to remove this dam. So the municipality will be the ones removing the dam, but we are working with the local community. They're getting them involved and sort of trying to get them eager to protect their river and not have these issues with dam removal. And then also in this municipality, we are looking at a larger scale restoration project. It should be larger than just a dam removal because it should be a nature-based solution. So looking at a whole river basin to solve societal flooding problems, actually. And so that might be in a little bit more distant future, but definitely something we're looking at as well.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Magda, and the whole team working on this. Congratulations to Latvia as well. Do you have anything to tell to our viewers that are starting to do a removal, encouragement or something like that, or the ones that are doing removals but facing a lot of issues and starting to lose the hope? What you would tell them?
I think it's important to keep going. Don't give up because these are not quick projects. I think we all want to remove as many dams as fast as possible. We want to, free our rivers up. But they will take time, and everyone is going to run into issues at one point or another. It's impossible to plan the perfect project. So I think it's important to just keep going and remember to be sympathetic and empathetic when you're talking to local people because they value their dams, but it's mainly because they don't know another way. Their dam has been there for a long time, so it's difficult for people to accept change, but eventually they do.
Perfect. That's amazing. And we can end our interview, our conversation with your encouragement to the ones that are willing to do more removal. We